I'll start with what's on the minds of a lot of our agriculture producers, farmers, because as I discussed in my opening, the CFTC is dealing with markets and financial instruments that are getting increasingly complex. But the core mission is to ensure that the markets farmers and ranchers use to manage their risks are safe, reliable, and function as intended. Mr. Celich, how do you envision the CFTC continuing to preserve these markets as a practical and accessible risk management tool for farmers and other end users?
Thank you, Ranking Member, and I really enjoyed the time in your office getting to discuss many of these issues. They're really important to everyday Americans, and as we discussed, overregulation can really trickle down to the everyday consumer. Many of us are getting ready to head home for the holidays, and the price of airfare can fluctuate based on jet fuel, but luckily we're able to lock in those prices as businesses and hedge that risk. And it's also something that affects the grocery store every day. So it's really important that we have these risk management tools. I think it's vitally important that we consider how overregulation of the real world, of energy, of agriculture, of livestock, of technology, as we're discussing today as well, that has an everyday impact on consumers. And so my intention is to modernize the rule set to make sure we're figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and cutting back on what doesn't work, fixing things that are broken, but not changing things that aren't broken where it's not necessary. But I do think it's vitally important that we modernize and that we get rid of the lore, the staff lore, the no action letters, all of this kind of unwritten rules of the road where it's really hard for everyday Americans to comply. So if we put things in writing, we figure out what works, put it through the notice and comment process or do it through a staff process, but make sure that what we're putting out there is something that people can follow, that they understand, and it's able to be complied with, and not something you need to hire a high-priced law firm to figure out.
Mm-hmm. And do you think you can do that with your existing resources when you add the potential crypto portfolio and some of the new things that are coming your way for regulation?
Senator, I'm looking forward to getting into the seat, and if confirmed, I'm going to take a hard look at the resource needs of the agency and hope to do that assessment and then get back to your office and work to make sure we have the resources to fulfill our critical mission.
Okay. What specific regulatory tools or approaches would you use to ensure that innovation in crypto markets does not come at the expense of basic safeguards to protect the public?
So it's vitally important that we have a cop on the beat. It's critical that we can't have another big loss of customer funds, as we've seen with MF Global, Peregrine, and most recently FTX. The CFTC has always been a regulator that's focused on protecting customer funds, making sure that we have appropriate disclosure where required to do so, and protecting consumers. Because at the end of the day, these are critical markets, and they affect, as I mentioned, the price of the groceries, as well as, of course, now as we're embarking into new digital domains, they could affect things like GPU costs and digital asset costs. And so I feel that we've massively over-regulated the real-world economy, as I mentioned. This affects agriculture, energy, crypto, and so much more. And so if we can figure out what works, what doesn't work, that's going to be the key to unlocking really great markets for every individual and making sure that we don't constrain our businesses and push them offshore.
So you represented numerous derivatives and crypto clients. We talked about this while in private practice. So tell me, how are you going to deal with conflicts of interest, especially when you will be the only person, if confirmed, on the commission?
Senator, of course. I think that's a critical issue. Having come from a law firm where in practicing law for many years, I will always hold myself to the highest ethical standards. I've, of course, been through a process with the nonpartisan Office of Government Ethics, as well as the ethics staff at the CFTC. I have an ethics agreement that I've signed and plan to adhere to all the terms of that. As a lawyer, I'm very much one that follows the guidelines in a contract.
Following up on that, because I think it's going to be very critical for trust and the like. So there are no Democratic members of the CFTC right now. I know you can't appoint them yourself, but you have talked about the value of minority commissioners in particularly the leadership they can offer and working together. What's your view on the importance of preserving the voices of minority commissioners, and will you advocate for the nomination and appointment of a full board, including 2 Democratic commissioners at the CFTC?
So, Senator, I do believe that it's very valuable to have a diversity of viewpoints. I've always benefited from that. My parents sitting behind me encouraged me to join the high school debate team years ago, and I was always flipping back and forth between different issues, and it really does pressure test your thinking on things and really force you to get to the right side, and oftentimes you find out you're wrong. And so I do think that's very important, and hope to have a diversity of views throughout the building. And of course, the president is the one that makes these decisions around nominations, but I will work with whoever the president chooses to appoint.
So in addition to the crypto, thank you, the crypto coming your way, the kind of volatility that we've seen in the ag markets and the like, there's also been growing interest in expanding derivatives market trading hours, potentially even to 24/7 trading. If the commission begins to allow extended trading hours, what guardrails do you believe we need to protect investors and prevent price dislocations, especially in lower volume markets like agriculture futures?
As I mentioned in my opening statement, there really is this confluence of new technologies and changes in our markets that we need to be vigilant about. I hope to work with all constituents on these issues and figure out what is appropriate for each market. It's not necessarily one size fits all. And so, what works for example, crypto may not work for pork bellies. And we really need to look at this on a product by product, market by market basis. And I look forward to those discussions, both at the commission as well as with this committee, if confirmed.
Okay, thank you. And I just continue to believe if you're given a mandate with, I'm out of time here, with rulemaking and the like, that you most likely are going to need more resources. I just don't know how you keep doing what you're doing now, 20% down on staff right now, and then a new mandate with that this will all work, no matter how good your background is or other commissioners that might come before us or when we get the full slate. I think that's going to continue to be an issue, and I hope that the White House will respect that. So thank you very much, Mr. Celich.
Yeah, and I actually very much agree with that.